the Srimad Bhagavatam, the very means of conquest. One should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God, Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Shri the author. Shwabhatareshu, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, Bhagavati Uttama Shloke, Bhakti Naishiki, by regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to a pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of God, who is praised with transcendental song, is established as an irrevocable fact. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Srila Prabhupada ki. Today we're looking at Canto 9, I believe, and Chapter 16, Lord Parashuram destroys the ruling class. And what shlokas are we doing today?
We are doing from 28 to 37.
28 to 37. Everybody ready? We'll read it together. Once it's up there. Hare Krishna. 28. Okay, everyone together, nice and loud and clear. Vishwamitra, the son of Maharaj Bhakti, was as powerful as the flames of fire. From the position of a Kshatriya, he achieved the position of a powerful Brahmin by undergoing penances and austerities. O King Parikshit, Vishwamitra had one sons, of whom the middle one was known as Madhuchitra. In relation to him, all the other sons were celebrated as the Madhuchandans. Vishwamitra accepted the son of Ajigar, known as Shudashepa, who was born in the Bhrigu dynasty and was also known as Devarata, as one of his own sons. Vishwamitra ordered his other sons to accept Shudashepa as their eldest brother. Shunashepa's father sold Shunashepa to be sacrificed as a man-animal in the yajna of King Harishchandra. When Shunashepa was brought into the sacrificial arena, he prayed to the demigods for release and was released by their mercy. Although Shunashepa was born in the Bhargava dynasty, he was greatly advanced in spiritual life, and therefore the demigods invoked protected him. Consequently, he was also celebrated as the descendant of Gadi named Devarata. When requested by their father to accept Shunashepa as the eldest son, the elder 50 of the Madhuchandas, the sons of Vishwamitra, did not agree. Therefore, Vishwamitra, being angry, cursed them. "May all of you bad sons become leches," he said, being opposed to the principles of Vedic culture. When the elder Madhuchandas were cursed, the younger 50, along with Madhuchanda, approached their father and agreed to accept his proposals. "Dear father," they said, "we shall abide by whatever arrangement you like." Thus the younger Madhuchandas accepted Shunashepa as their eldest brother and told him, "We shall follow your orders." Vishwamitra then said to his obedient sons, "Because you have accepted Shunashepa as your eldest brother, I am very satisfied. By accepting my order, you have made me a father of worthy sons, and therefore I bless all of you to become the fathers of sons also." Vishwamitra said, "O Kushi, descendants of Kaushika, this Devarata is mine, and is one of you. Please obey his orders, O King Parikshit, Vishwamitra had many other sons, such as Ataksha, Aharita, Jaya, and Kru.
Vishwamitra cursed some of his sons and blessed the others.
And he also adopted a son. Thus there were varieties in the Kaushik dynasty, but among all the sons, Devarata was considered eldest. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 9th canto's 16th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Lord Parashuram Destroys the World's Ruling Class. And what verse do we focus on? 28. 28 is great. Okay, we got it. Gadir Abun Mahateja.
Gadir Abun Mahateja.
Samida Eva Pavakaha.
Samida Eva Pavakaha.
Tapasa Kshatram Udstrijya. Yolebe Brahma Varchasam.
Yolebe Brahma Varchasam.
Gadir Abun Mahateja.
Gadir Abun Mahateja.
Samida Eva Pavaka.
Samida Eva Pavaka.
Tapasa kshatram utsrijya.
Tapasa Shatram
Utsrijya.
Yolebe Brahma Varchasam.
Gadir Abun Mahateja.
Gadir Abun Mahateja.
Samida Eva Pavaka.
Samida Eva Pavaka.
Tapasa kshatram utsrijya.
Tapasa Kshatram Utsrijya.
Yolebe Brahma Varchasam.
Yolebe Brahma Varchasam.
Gadir Abun Mahateja.
Gadir Abun Mahateja. Sambrahma Eva Pavakaha. Tapasa Kshatram Utsrijya.
Yolebe Brahma Varchasam.
Gadir Abun Mahateja.
Gadir Abun Mahateja.
Samidha Eva Pavakaha.
Samida Eva Pavakaha. Tapasa Kshatram Utsrijya. Yaha. Yaha. One who. Vishwamitra. Lebe achieved. Brahma Varchasam. The quality of a Brahman. Translation. Vishwamitra, the son of Maharaj Gadi, was as powerful as the flames of fire. From the position of a Kshatriya, he achieved the position of a powerful Brahman by undergoing penances and austerities. Okay, great. So we're going to go through the purport and we'll charade it out. Okay. Now, having narrated the history of Lord Parashuram, Shukadeva Goswami begins the history of Vishwamitra. From the history of Parashuram, we can understand that although Parashuram belonged to the Brahminical group, he circumstantially had to work as a Later, after finishing his work as a Kshatriya, he again became a and returned to Mahendra Parvata. Similarly, we can see that although Vishwamitra was born in a family by austerities and penances, he achieved the position of a Brahmana. These histories confirm the statements in Shastra that a Brahman may become a Kshatriya may become a Brahman, or Vaishya, and a Vaishya may become a Brahmana by achieving the required qualities. One's status does not depend upon birth, as confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 7:11-35 by Narada Muni. Yasya ilal lakshanam proktang pungso varnabhivyajanakam yad anyatrapi drishyeta tat tinaiva viniridishet. If one shows the symptoms of being a Brahmana, a
Vaishya, Shudra.
even if he has appeared in a different class, he should be accepted according to those symptoms of classification. To know who is a Brahmin and who is a Kshatriya, one must consider a man's quality and work. If all the unqualified Shudras become so-called Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, social order will be impossible to maintain. Thus, there will be discrepancies. Human society will
Open. Close. Lid.
turn into a society of animals. And the situation all over the world will be
Miserable. Fire. Crime. Horrible. Upset. Rescue.
Devastating.
give me a H, 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 E, 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 L, hellish, okay. Okay, that's the end of it. Thank you very much. All right, good. Okay, this is a very elaborate story that we're talking about here, but I think it's good to just pick up on the main theme that Prabhupada is delivering to us, okay? So, a common theme for Prabhupada and his guru, our Param Guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, is that you contribute to society based on your qualification, based on your proclivity, based on your inclination, your talent, and so on and so forth. And so it has been known that sometimes people out of a need will make some adjustments. A Kshatriya could be a Brahmin. Brahmin could take the role of a Kshatriya and so on like that. When it comes to Prabhupada, I think he was a jack of all trades and a master of all. If we are a devotee, we should become good at all things, right? I did want to stress this, that Prabhupada wanted us to be all rounders, good round, that we can kind of like jump into almost any circumstance. If bookkeeping needs to be done, get some of the basics down, and do it. That's how he started the movement. He had to do everything. We were told that at the Montreal Temple in 1968. Well, we didn't really have a temple yet there, but devoted people were lining up in the bathroom, and Prabhupada was in line also.
In Montreal Temple?
Yeah, Montreal. Not the current one, but, with that community, right? And Prabhupada just got into cleaning. He got into cooking, when you think about it, Showed us how to make our toothpaste, with calcium carbonate and some sea salt, and put a little bit of mustard seed oil in there, and, some cloves maybe. He taught us so many things. He told us, explain how to go to the bathroom in a Vedic way, which is more clean than what most people do. I won't get into the details of that. I'm really not into toilet humor, to be honest with you. But, he just did everything. And then he delivered the classes, and he met with the dignitaries. So he was actually the personnel for our communications, interviews. He was interviewed, and he sometimes, I remember Rabinder Swarup, I was with him one. Does anybody know Rabinder Swarup, one of our great luminaries? He said Prabhupada's, dealing with some of the journalists was a disaster. And meaning that he was just very frank with everybody. He wasn't just necessarily politically correct, or he just went from his heart. And so, but nevertheless, he did the service of doing some communications work. Devotees always pointed to him. Anybody came, talk to our guru, just point him in there, put the microphone by his mouth, So he wanted us to do everything. There was, I believe this was in Montreal too. Prabhupada was in there, and it was either Malati or Govinda Dasi. There was a rat in the room, and Prabhupada was trying, and his female disciple were trying to trap the rat in a box, put the box over the rat. So he was busy at all these things. It might sound strange, but he was just everywhere. And you cannot say he's Bhagawan, although sometimes devotees could be compared to God. But let's at least say this on the safe side: godly, very godly. And he wanted us for all of us to be quite expert at everything, writing, if it's possible, And he wasn't scared to roll up his sleeves and get his hands dirty. That was the point, So if we're talking about divisions of human society and what Krishna wanted, Brahmachatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, the Varnashram says Daivi Varnashram, which means Krishna-focused, Krishna-centered. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't be, overlap a little bit, Let's not be scared. You do what you have to do to start the movement, and that's exactly what he did. He did the needful. You've heard that phrase? Do the needful. I think you should write that down. It's one of the first terms I ever heard when I was a new devotee. One devotee's name's Drupad. So, got to do the needful, okay? Do what's needed. Not to say, well, that's not my service. We had one brahmachari here, and he was a little bit not so altogether, I'll be very honest with you. But I asked him to do some seva. I was the temple president. And he said, well, that's not my varna. And, I just wanted to slap him across the face. That's what I felt like doing. Because I thought it was so inappropriate, so out of etiquette, so out of protocol, I wanted to do it, but I didn't want to do it because there will be repercussions. People start talking. And, but, that's not our game. That's not our culture. You do what's needed to be done. Naturally, there's a need to be organized, and people need to be delegated. This is the big thing about Krishna consciousness and its success. We need to delegate responsibilities to others. It used to be that the temple president did everything. And that is like a guaranteed burnout program. Honestly, you're going to dry up like a prune. So delegation is really important, but sometimes you also have to demonstrate that you can do it. It's not like you're passing the buck to everybody else and just sitting in your nice, comfortable temple president's chair. It's not exactly like that either. Let's not forget what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did in Jagannath Puri. You know what he did? He made it fun. Krishna consciousness fun. We're going to clean this Gundicha Mandir, and that's where Jagannath is going to be staying after his ride on the Grand Road, which is about 2 miles or equal 3 kilometers. He would be staying at the Gundicha Mandir for some days and then make his way back. So to prepare for that, they got into a whole cleaning competition. But maybe it's a round figure, but there were about 100 people with Mahaprabhu, and they had a competition to see who could have the biggest pile of dirt, who could actually show off and, collect the most of the undesirables. And guess who won the team? Who won the game? Mahaprabhu was the champion. How it was all done, I don't know. But here's an example where you the clothes become the cleaning implements or tools or whatever, your doties are used sometimes for cleaning, and he just got into it. And the story is there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So much fun they all had, you can imagine. Like the other day we were splashing in Ottawa at Mooney's Bay, and it's like a splash party is what they actually had. Mind you, it was sweet water, because they have some ghats there. There is one called the Indradyumna Sarovara, and named after the king, who's the husband of Gundicha, the queen. Right? So I would assume that's the way it was, because thinking about it geographically, I was there before at the temple, Gundicha Mandir, and it's fairly close to the lake. So they use a lot of water. Some devotees will pour some water on Mahaprabhu, and would on his, just kind of accidentally throw some water on his lotus feet, and then someone else would catch it under. The interesting thing about the Gundicha Mandir is that Orissa is an interesting state. That's where Jagannath Puri is located, in Orissa. It is a little bit caste conscious, maybe a little bit overly. And I went to the door, the gate of the temple, the Gundicha temple, and there was a security guard there. I just thought, let me just try. Let me go inside and see if they're okay, because this has the same status as the Jagannath temple. You're not supposed to go in unless you have the right chocolate color, skin, and you come from the right gotra, family lineage. So I went in there and says, no, it says the security guard, you cannot come. He didn't know much English. You cannot come. I said, why can't I come? He said, you're Christian. I said, I'm a Christian. Where'd you get that? I challenged him a little bit, and I said, is it because my skin color? I'm supposed to be white, but Balaram's in there and he's white. So no, you cannot come. I mean, you couldn't argue with the guy. There's no point in creating a scene over there, all those things. But I think, going back to our theme here, is that there is sometimes cases where we have to make some adjustments. But maybe there's some examples you can think of where somebody came from a particular order or classification amongst the Varna and Ashram, and they made a switch for socio-political reasons. Anybody can think of something like that? Yes. Mm-hmm. Krishna? Okay. Well, that's a good example. Coward boy. He became like a Kshatriya, that's right. And when Krishna was actually having some dialogue with Rukmini, they would do these like little mock arguments sometimes, Krishna just sat down with her and he was teasing her. So, I don't know why you married me. I don't understand why we got together in the first place, because first of all, people don't understand my position in the social order of things. They don't understand my portfolio. I'm sometimes, a Vaishya, sometimes I'm a Kshatriya, so I'm classless, like that. So then Rukmini picks up on that. That's right. You are classless. You are transcendental. You're beyond the Varnas and the Ashramas, right? So they had a nice fun. I mean, first of all, Krishna was pretty hard and heavy, and she actually, was fainted. She actually lost consciousness, fell down like a banana tree, boom, like this, Or some devotees do that in front of the deities. Have you ever seen the real dandavats by some devotees? They just go plop. You wonder, did they break their nose or anything? Or did people do that in the past? We have little markings in the floor that look like tilak marks. Have you ever seen those? But the kind of, have you ever wondered how they got there? Was it the devotees, the first batch, but they were so holy, and so as soon as they put their forehead there, there's an indentation of a tilak mark, like the tuning fork here. But it's not that. Do you want to know what the answer is? How they got there? It's very simple. When we bought this church, there were oak wood benches, and they were sort of like screwed into the floor. And so they left those kind of markings, like this. So now you know the answer. It's nothing mystical, but it's very, very practical. Okay. So anyways, Krishna was a little bit hard on the Rukmini, and then he made up for it. He's fun. Krishna's fun. He plays games. And people do that with their spouses. They play games, because nothing worse than living with someone and it's just bland, There has to be a little bit of fun in it all, And even Srila Prabhupada, he would do fun things too, He actually would. Oftentimes with words and the nicknames he gave to devotees, Kirtanananda was Kitchenananda, Gargamuni was Gargamani, it sort of fit their characters, right? Okay, now, any other examples of people who may have shifted, done paradigm shifts from one particular role and went to another for reasons? Yes.
Giriraj Swami writes in Aldoja Temple that he didn't so much have the leadership nature, but Prabhupada asked him to be temple president in Juhu. And so he, for many years, served there in that capacity. That's right.
And maybe he wasn't an admin kind of material, administrative type, but because he was very pure. So these are actually good examples. I like that. The story I like often, which is also part of the Prabhupada Leela. Prabhupada was walking with two of his disciples. They were both sannyasis. And so he was turning his head to one and said, now you're a sannyasi. A sannyasi is meant to travel and go all over the place, travel very light. I'm giving you the gist of it. And wear little, carry little, etc. And just go and enlighten people, plant seeds, that idea, So this sannyasi went, yeah, okay, Prabhupada, right. Then he turns to the other sannyasi. A sannyasi is a very surrendered soul, and he does what needs to be done. So I need someone to be here to manage the place. And so you stay in one place, and that is sannyas. It sounds contradictory, doesn't it? Yeah, but I'm sure behind that was he was processing and analyzing, well, maybe this person would be best suited in the travel, and the other person best, like say, being sort of anchored in one place. There are some other examples in Shastras of people who switched, some prime examples.
Dronacharya.
Very good example. But do you like to explain that one a little bit?
He was a Brahmana, but he taught martial arts to the Brahmanas.
That's right. Yeah, there was a need for that, for switching. There's another person who that sort of comes to mind who also made some adjustments. Yes.
Prahlad Maharaj.
Prahlad Maharaj. I'm not sure about that. How do you perceive that one?
Because really the demons are 90% of them are Shudras, but then he ended up becoming a really nice saint and Brahmana.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, surely he's painted as a Vaishnava, the purest that you can get, Yeah, he was more or less a Brahmana, but I think that's not a bad, example right there. Do we have any other examples? Well, what about the Axeman himself? Yeah.
I thought that wouldn't count because it's right.
Oh, it counts. Yeah, it counts. Yeah, we could just, thank you, Prabhu. But let us just emphasize it a little bit, He did switch roles for some very necessary reasons, And those are some examples. Yes? Karna. Well, Karna, he was Kshatriya by birth, right? And he was raised by a chariot driver and his wife. Her name was Radha, and his name Atirat. That was the name of his dad. His dad found him in a basket floating on the Ganga, He said, we were looking for children. I found one. Yes, and Karna had this, he had this, the beauty, the strength, the looks and everything of being a Kshatriya. It's very obvious, but his background was somewhat unknown, and it was only known just a few hours before he passed away. But it's a beautiful story. I think everybody loves Karna, isn't it? Like he's a superhero. It's somewhat a story, some of the best stories are like tragic, like Romeo and Juliet, and and we do have another tragic story is Abhimanyu, right? The son of Arjuna. He went into that battlefield fearlessly. He was basically just like a teenager. He was not a full-grown man yet, and just went in and wanted to help the situation. And he got caught into a vyuha, and he was stuck in there. He fought very valiantly for a time, but all these, let's say, expert warriors were so intimidated by this. We can't let this happen. We can't be embarrassed by this little guy. So they ganged up on him, all at once with weapons, and it was sort of a sad story, But talking about stepping out of line, it was instances like that turned everything around. The war of Kurukshetra had now become ugly. It become bitter because of not being up to codes. I mean, really, the fighting order, or those who were out in battle, they had some conduct that's quite commendable. I mean, everybody knows that word commendable. You've heard it before, commendable? Oh, good. I was in the middle of Saskatchewan. I was walking across Canada. It was a hot, hot day. It was so rough. In the middle of the nowhere, there was this little variety store with little trinkets in it, and a gas station. And in the middle of nowhere, I swear, in the middle of nowhere. And I sort of peeked through the window. What are these kind of paraphernalia? What kind of place is this? And then, the owner, his face went to the other side of the window. It kind of shocked me like this. And there's a pudgy little Italian guy. And I said, I was just wanting to get something to drink, and I'm walking across the country. So, that is very commendable. Very commendable. So I'll never forget that word. The way he said it, very, very, poetically. So it's commendable let's talk about what is commendable when you do your prescribed duties. How many times has Prabhupada used that term, prescribed duties? Please write that verse down. Prescribed duties. What really does it mean in the context of our life here? What does it mean? Yeah.
Prescribed, as the word explains, it's a prescription, and that comes from someone who is experienced, and who cares for you, who's your well-wisher. Yeah. So services that you may not know are good for you, but are prescribed by mentors, gurus, seniors, and they know that this is something that can shape you. Either it could be a permanent service or something can be changed later, but for now, this is the prescription.
Yes, right. It sounds kind of formal, doesn't it? Prescribed duties, that has that flavor. And Prabhupada's guru would have the young men that were joining. There weren't young women. They didn't have ashrams for women in those days. But the young men were coming. He would have them clean pots. You find that was like a prescribed duty. That was almost like an initiation. It was a way in, a way of cleaning. Now, some of you have had this experience, right? Washing pots when you first came around, and it really has a therapeutic, effect. You may think your prescribed is I'm with IT, That's about it, right? And then you have to wash pots. Yeah, wash pots. I mean, that thing? Yeah, that thing. You might have to step into it and just and really get the grime off. Like sometimes the doll gets stuck. That's the problem with doll. It gets stuck at the bottom, caked to the bottom and like black, and you got to scrape it in there. And for somebody who's serious about their spiritual life, I'm going to tackle this thing, and I'm going to look like a mirror when I'm finished at the bottom, you know. So we take up these duties that we don't necessarily feel is, well, it's not my thing, you know. Well, it is your thing. Surrender is your thing. Even Arjuna was thinking, it's not my thing. Here's somebody who wanted to change his profile. He wanted to step away from the Kshatriya role and become like a Brahmin type, you know. A vairagi of sorts, you know, like a yogi. Get off the grid, live off the land, you know. Eat your batua or whatever it is over there, you know. Do you know what batua is? We call it lamb's quarters. It's something you can eat, you know, it's like better than spinach. Anyways, okay. So his idea was, I am just going to step out of what I have been doing for a long time, This situation is quite different. And so this is my position. And he turns to Krishna, he says, Govinda, I shall not fight. Okay, so he was making it clear to the Lord that I'm going to change my varna. I'm going to change my job at this last moment. Now, some of the things that Krishna has to say, you're fool number one. That's how Prabhupada describes it. This is not for you. You are Kshatriya, so that is your prescribed duty, right? So Arjuna got sold on the idea after some time, and by the time we get to chapter 18, Arjuna says, I understand now. I know what I have to do. I'm surrendered to you, you know? And then Krishna throws a loop, you know, what would he call, like a curveball. He says, well, I've been telling you to be a Kshatriya, now I'm saying, forget that. Yes. Yeah. In the sense that don't identify too strongly with your job. What really you need to cultivate is the quality of surrender. So do what needs to be done. Do the needful. We need you now. Don't pull away. There's people depending on you. So Krishna switched. When he felt Arjuna was ready, then he said, okay, now you just surrender. Now, some of us were raised as Christians, and we heard the story of Jesus. You know, Jesus said, there are many things I've yet to tell you, but you are not ready to hear. Okay, so I guess he had some secrets. He had some things he wanted to say, maybe of a more transcendental nature. But I said, I'm just going to give you some rules and regulations right now because that's the level you are at. Okay, so Krishna figured out that after, you know, the few minutes of dialogue and before the 18 days of the war, Krishna felt that Arjuna had, you know, come out of his spell, out of the Yoga Maya, and figured on now, yeah, I'm just going to give you the ultimate sutra. And the ultimate sutra in English and modern day terms, we call it the bullet point. I don't know if you want to write that down. But the early Vedas, they always came out with sutras, simple, easy to follow kind of messages, you know? And yeah, I think we've had enough coolness for now. I think it's cool.
I'm turning it on.
You're being cool. Okay. Our guru is A.C. Bhaktivedanta Krishna. He's the coolest guru. It took a little while to figure that one out. Yeah. All right. So, you know, for the purpose of surrender, you do whatever it takes. You know? If you have to save a child from drowning, and say, "Oh, I'm not a lifeguard," or you know, it's not my duty. That guy's paid to do the work. So, this is you can't. No one's going to buy that. Those kind of lame excuses. So we have to stop the excuses And when you shed the excuses, you kind of put it behind you, then we're talking about surrender, right? Real surrender. I get it. I'll do whatever's required. I'm prepared to act according to your instructions. So let's get on with the show. Yeah! The horses and all that. Okay, we're going to leave 10 minutes for your discussions and reflections. Sí, señor.
Tomorrow. Muchas gracias.
Buenas.
How someone can ascertain for themselves, or how someone can understand themselves if they're doing a particular service, like if they have prescribed duties that are difficult for them, where is the line that you draw between, when do you realize, okay, I have to do something else for me to be happy and to be sustainable?
Well, that's one of the reasons why you have a mentor or mentors or gurus who can understand your nature. Sometimes parents are good at this too, to be honest with you. Some of us come from rebellious backgrounds. My dad, my mom, they don't know me. They don't understand me. Actually, they do. They know you. They studied you. Don't underestimate the abilities that they have. They maybe 20 years, and that's a long stretch. They've been watching you since you came out of the birth canal. They know you more than you know yourself. It happens even for me. Like sometimes, I'm 70. I'll be 73 shortly, and I think of something, especially with my dad. Things that I recall he had said to me. He knew something that I didn't know about. I couldn't see myself because I had a blind spot for myself. So that's why we are social animals, and we're not meant to be loner yogis. We are, maybe if there's a time when you might need to do that, just have a little retreat by yourself. But in general, there's people who know you. They're experienced. They've been through what you've gone through. And, when you become let's say, fine-tuned, let's say, student, a graduate of Bhagavad Gita, you become a little bit of a psychologist. You understand human behavior because you've been studying the three modes of material nature. And so and the three modes of material nature, the mixture of them, oftentimes will determine, what is your varna and what is your ashram. So usually you end up doing what you like to do, and if there's something you don't like to do, but you've been asked to do, or it's just necessary, then you do it out of surrender. It is a surrendering process. Very few people that I know like to work. That go out there and get into the grind and being stuck in traffic. And I don't know too many people that like that, to be honest with you. But they said, I have to do this. I have my service obligations to my family, whatever, that type of thing. So if somebody's needing a change, then it's good to have a frank discussion with somebody that you can speak in confidence to. I think that's the way ISKCON is supposed to be, to have a culture where you can go to people that can assist you in these matters. Does that help?
Yes.
That's just a practical answer.
Thank you.
Honestly, you end up usually doing what you like to do. Like people end up going to school, taking the courses that they gravitate towards. Usually it's like that. Right. But even though Arjuna was, a very fit Kshatriya, still he was uncomfortable, as in chapter 1, chapter 2. Yeah, okay.
That was a very nice question. I was to ask something on that, but I think I'll ask something else. So I've also seen that sometimes the devotees, they identify themselves with the service, which is done. So this thing starts with a good mood. I want to put my energy and enthusiasm, but over the time when they start identifying themselves with that service, that kind of like becomes an existence. Like a reason why they're existing in ISKCON or in their practice. And if this role is taken away from, if this role is taken away from, sorry, if the role is taken away from them, then they actually leave that community and never come back. So my question here is that, and this is at least 4 to 5 devotees that I've seen who've been like this. And so my question is that how do we not, how do we remain steady in the services? Because that's also a thing, like, how can I remain steady in the service for years and years, at the same time not get identified with that service? That if it's taken away, then I'm not affected. I'm still coming to the temple, I'm looking for another service. It could be better than that in terms of like relishing that service, or it could be worse than that. Could be, basically could be of my nature, could not be of my nature. So how do I maintain, how do I just safeguard myself from that? Safeguard myself.
Safeguard myself. Well, I mean, I think it's always good, like if you have services, you know, it's to be worked out between yourself and the person who's, you know, giving you the delegating, the delegations. I think it should be, you know, a nice dialogue between the two people. I think that's the best way to go, unless if you just want to say, tell me what to do and I'll do it. Yes, boss, you know. It doesn't always, it's nice to have a little back and forth. That's mature, back and forth negotiation like that. But we also have to be ready for any emergency situation. If the house is on fire, we're not going to just sit there and says, well, you know, I mean, the ceiling's got, you know, the fire's gone up to the ceiling, the walls are caving in, and definitely at that, you know, you're not going to sit down and have a little armchair discussion. You're just going to, you know, roll up your sleeves and do what needs to be done. Yeah. So if there's war, you know, what if we are displaced? You know, if it comes or something like that, you know, we're all going to have to move out. So we come up with a plan, see what we can do together, but we might not be able to dance before their beloved lordships, you know, and be ready for anything. Because that's just the history of humankind. And I think we have to be ready. If there's some warning signs, that red flags where we see some people are struggling a little bit, maybe they aren't properly situated. And so we should talk about that. But everyone's going to be tested, you know, even if you're situated in the work you like to do, there's going to be some hard times. Just like in the case of our Jew. Be ready. Is that going to be okay?
I guess my feeling is that how can a service be my heart and soul, and at the same time I can stay detached from it. That this can be taken away from me.
Right.
And to someone else.
Yeah, I mean, it's been agreed upon, if a guru, say for instance, or administrator gives the blessings to do this service, then you take it with your heart and soul. You just give your all, you know. I mean, the happiest people on the world, you know, honestly, socially, are the people that are spiritual, plus they're big on family. Family means a lot to them. Plus they have friends, deep friends. And then finally, they're committed to their work. They love their work. They want to do the best job possible. They want to please their boss, you know? Or they want to please the Lord. Ultimately, Krishna's pleased with, you know, our expertise, you know, that we put our heart to the whole thing. I think those 4 things, you have to be looking at them, and those are the happiest people. Everybody wants to be happy. It's not that there won't be challenges in work, especially in work, there will be. But you just have to say this is, you know, and it shouldn't be ridiculous. I remember at Rath Yatra some years ago, we had like a big board with a thermometer, and I said, people, you know, you can put your name down for what you want to contribute to the Rath Yatra. So one family was traditionally doing the sugar. Well, you know, it's not the happiest thing to talk about, the white sugar, you know. It's like the worst thing. White sugar, white flour, and white salt, you know, like all those things are pretty bad for you. So one family was contributing like this. Another family wanted to come in and also contribute. And the first family, they felt they had a monopoly. You can't, you can't donate any sugar because that's what we've been doing. And it got into like a scene. Like, why can't you share? What's wrong with sharing? Sharing is a good thing. You can't just be too possessive. That's passion, right? Passion is not going to help you devotionally. But in goodness, which is the mode of thoughtfulness, you say, okay, yeah, let's do some things together. Like I remember I was in the position, I was the pres here, and someone else wanted that position. And
You were what, sorry?
the president.
Oh, okay.
The TP. TP. And someone else wanted the position. And in order to get the position, it was very political. And they were just trying to ruin me, And I just thought, well, why can't we just work together? Why can't we just hold hands? Do it together. We have a big job, we have a big obligation here to change the world, right? Krishna conscious, right? So anyways.
Was it successful?
Yes, things worked out, yeah.
They were successful.
No. I'll tell you that what happened is I went for a long walk.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask.
I went for a long walk and that did it, okay? All right, so we're almost at the tail end. Anybody else have any questions or remarks or reflections or anything at all? Okay, so Bruce, we're getting very close to the big festival. It's supposed to be the biggest Rath in North America, to my knowledge. And so we appreciate, just get yourself psyched up, ready to really surrender this. Talk about surrender. You have to give up precious sleep here and there, and here and there, and here and there. So it's a line from our drama. You might have to give up some, There's going to be nice prasadam, and you're coming a little late. Oh,